Hi, I'm Brendan Ferguson, a designer and writer.
This is Dave Grossman again.
Dave Bogan, art director.
And Heather Logas did design on this episode.
So here we are reminding every player that Max is still the President of the United States. And very subtly and cleverly reminding everybody what has been the season-wide plot up to this point, as Sam tries to figure it out himself.
We also finally, at this point, actually changed the time of day outside of Sam and Max's office. It's kind of
good
nice
observation.
Yeah. That's something we wanted to do a couple times. We wanted to do different times a day. We just didn't have the bandwidth to pull it off.
The Handbook for Multicolored Happiness by Hugh Bliss.
Colors. No.
One of the nice things about Sam and Max is that those characters can say almost anything, so we can get away with saying very obviously contrived plot exposing things like that all the time, and all just works as a joke.
If you notice, you can see Hugh Bliss's eyes just on the windowsill there.
You're right.
He's looking at Sam.
And you can see Leonard still in the closet,
I never did trust him.
which is kind of sad. I feel kind of sorry for Leonard.
It's cozy in there. What was the reason
Does
for...
he get to go to the bathroom ever?
We assume
Maybe
so.
he does. That will be in the deleted scenes.
The rope is yellow.
Ew.
Ew.
So why did we leave the door open at the beginning of this episode
Well, in
again?
this particular episode, unlike the other ones, you actually do need something from the closet. By the way, if you've never played this episode, please leave, or your DVD will be forcibly ejected from your drive at this point. Because I'm about to reveal that a very critical item is in the closet in episode 6, and so we wanted to make sure that people were especially inclined to notice the closet when they went in that office and not just think, oh yeah, it's just the same old chunk that's in there.
Right.
I think some people were they were rubbed a little bit the wrong way when they saw this orange title sequence for the second time.
Orangophobics, you mean?
It's a different orange, so get over it.
Which is a very
different.
pleasant
Yellow
orange.
didn't look good with the title colors.
Yeah, we had quite a lot of battles to fight at the end of this episode, and if we were to go with what we were thinking originally, which was yellow, we would have had to change the title color also, and we were seriously running out of time at this point. So,
Yes, speaking of titles, you'll notice that this one was called Bright Side of the Moon, but it wasn't always. We had originally been going to call it From Jaws of Certain Bliss, and then someone pointed out that that was a bit of a giveaway for anyone who hadn't actually played the rest of the season yet, and we were going to be packaging these all together, and there was going to be lists of all the titles, and you were going to know who the villain was right from the beginning. So we had to come up with something else in a hurry, and I think that was actually someone on the forums and suggested something like that.
here's Super
No,
Ball.
we independently thought of that.
Super cool Super Ball in his snazzy new suit and his colorful tie as a prismatologist.
Super Ball is fabulous.
This episode was a great opportunity to just bring back everybody. I mean, there's Harry Moleman in the back, and there's Super Ball here, and a bunch more people in the retreat. All of our favorites got to come back.
Steve Purcell actually came up with the idea of when we were doing episode 3, Harry Moleman was in this giant robot suit. You wouldn't know that at the time,
You do that.
but he thought it would be funny if there was actually this little guy in there controlling a robot suit, and this was our opportunity to finally show that. So it's kind of an interesting character. I love when he's crying and he's talking about his stinky feet. That's my favorite part of this game. Oh, my feet stink!
One question. Would it work
Also, it was going to be a bit of a challenge to sort of get the exposition all in to explain how it was that Hugh Bliss was connected to all of the things that had been going on all season long. So we just used this little visitor center as an opportunity to do that, and we just put up an organizational chart in the back of it. The easy way out.
Smart.
There it is.
My favorite
Yeah.
part is the veil of secrecy, key element in any world domination plan.
I think Harry Moleman turned out really great.
I love that guy's voice.
I really like his face and his his facial animation.
It turned out it works the automatic lip sync stuff works on some characters better than others, and I think you're right. I think on Harry it just ended up working out really nicely.
Okay, go ahead.
Shove that one off.
Did you finish all your chores?
Bosco as his own mother is just a scary thought.
Yeah.
We went through a lot of different ideas for what Bosco was going to be for this episode. Everything from, I don't even remember, Elvis was one of them.
Yeah, we have
right.
a long list of possibilities, but we had to get him to be his mother.
We don't want to give them away because we might use them still.
Okay, forget I said the Elvis thing.
It'll be a complete surprise to everyone.
What? I can't believe this!
And this is recapping all the key items they needed in all the episodes.
Yeah.
And of course Bosco has one of each behind the counter. This is really great.
Yeah, this whole little asking for various obscure items part of this dialogue that happened in every episode over the season just turned out to be something that actually was really popular. People were always talking about, oh yes, you see all the list of items that were in there, and it's just a complete throwaway thing that has nothing to do with the plot at all.
I so hope you're enjoying.
Brendan really wanted everyone possible in the world to be a prismatologist now,
I just kept asking more.
which is why
Could we make a shark? be
the acid shark is up there, the bug, and even the ant farm and their plant,
Have splendid.
and Mr. Spatula, the fish.
Sorry.
No, good.
Hugh Bliss has this funky animated texture on his head right now, kind of giving him the hologram look. It's actually the same effect that we use on the television in Sam and Max's office, which is kind of funny. It's thrown on there last minute.
This is probably the single biggest environment in the season, isn't it?
Yeah. The big challenge with this environment was we've got this giant space. It's also built in 360 degrees, and there's lots of obstacles in the middle of the characters' walk boxes. The walk boxes are basically the areas that Sam and Max are allowed to walk on in the game with player control. Having obstacles in the middle of the floor space
Max and I will try out this video.
makes it really hard to follow the characters around with the camera and have everything have a sense of screen continuity and all that kind of business. So this is the most advanced that we've kind of brought our environments to at this point.
Okay, this Tic-Tac-Doom game was probably one of the more fun things to design, actually, over the course of the season. I think we spent about a day and a half playing tic-tac-toe against each other and trying to lose.
Trying to
make
do it
sure that was
backwards.
actually a challenging thing to do.
It's really hard to lose.
It was really fun, yeah. So the idea is, what kind of arcade game could we put on him that would be pretty straightforward and easy to implement? And so tic-tac-toe is like the easiest game that we could think of, and
For
then
some reason, tic-tac-toe did seem to keep coming up. Like we kept trying to work tic-tac-toe in for some reason.
we had it in there in different versions and different ways.
And not hard enough. I want my money.
And it is a fairly interesting thing just to design a game that you are supposed to lose.
Right.
And we weren't sure it was going to work, so we did, like Dave said,
I
spend
think,
a
yeah,
lot
there
of
was-
time
yeah.
play testing
There
that.
was a movie I watched, I think it was Children of Heaven, where a boy has to come in second place in order to get something. I was very intrigued by that, so I always want to make something where you specifically had to lose, but finding something where you could theoretically be trying to win, but then only later realize that you were supposed to lose.
And it's still fun to lose.
Yeah.
That had to be key. And I think his voice lines in that Cinestars or Bluster Blaster's voice lines really make that really fun experience.
Oh, man.
The barfing.
Oh my god.
There's plenty of barfing in episode 6, much to my dismay.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the episode, I was completely freaked out by the fact that
But go ahead.
Green Max was going to be eating Jimmy and barfing him back up again. Not to mention eating Sam and Max and barfing them back up again.
And I would,
I think it was mainly because gastrokinesis was just such a great word that once we thought of it,
It's
we
a
had
really
to keep
good
it in
word.
there.
I think it was more to make my life miserable, but
Yeah, well, I mean,
Well-
kind of diplomatically throughout the season, we're always trying to make Dave Bogan happy. But by the last episode, hey, for all I know, I'm out of here after this.
it's that constant tug of war between, keeping the production going and having all the bells and whistles that you want in the game. And I think you guys won this battle.
It was also my first trimester of pregnancy, and I was feeling nauseous all the time. Having
wow,
constant
yeah.
conversations about barfing everywhere was a little rough.
Awesome. I think this episode by far is the most cinematic. We really tried to go out of our way to explore the environments with the camera, especially in the cutscenes. It's interesting to see the progression from episode 1 to episode 6. You definitely tell the difference.
And I really love the animation of Hugh Bliss in this sequence, and actually for the rest of the game. He's just so lively as a character.
That's a great point. When we first introduced the character, it was in episode 2, is that right? Mm-hmm. We didn't want to make him stand out too much because obviously we're going to use him in the later episodes. And that was a challenge in itself. But I wasn't really feeling it for Hugh. He didn't seem like the big mega villain that we needed him to be. And when we started to animate this guy in episode 6, we just went to town. And with all our crazy influences, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Am I allowed to say that? You can edit it out. Michael Jackson and Doug Henning and all these crazy, crazy characters that we know from our real lives. How can we get them into this crazy evil magician guy that will just make you feel weird and keep you laughing, but also keep you cringing? I think we're pretty successful with it in this last episode.
We keep you cringing.
Yeah.
Right to the end.
I think he's great because you're not really sure whether you like him or whether you're terrified of him.
I just love really unpredictable characters where I'm just entertained to see every word that's going to come out of his mouth because you don't know how he's going to intone it or what he's going to be doing or how he's going to contort his body.
My feedback on Hugh Bliss from an outside party was the fact that adults who have children will hate him and children will actually love him, which is kind of scary if you're a parent. But I think that's a good place to be. You have an evil character that people get emotionally involved with.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
One of my favorite things about this episode was the look on John Scro's face when we told him that we were going to need to make 3 different versions of Max that had different pieces of himself removed, and that they were all going to have to be able to come off and go back on and float around in space.
John Scro's our technical artist who deals with attachments and rigs and bones and basically all the problems that the designers create. So this was by far the most challenging episode, but I think it has the biggest payoff also.
This is also one of the most violent episodes in some ways. The hand cutting off puzzle, you ripping all the body parts off of the different Maxes.
Hey, it's a cartoon.
But it's very much in the spirit of the comic, I think.
They're made of rubber.
Let's see if I can get any reception for this thing.
They don't bleed, so
Yeah,
they must be
no
okay.
guts. It's not gross, it's just kind of a little bit violent.
Well,
We went through so many versions of the getting the tail puzzle
pal.
for Slothful Max.
Eating your tail, so I can
Yeah, it's difficult to come up with a character who doesn't move. How does he
What are you doing?
pose as an interesting adversary? So we give him some magical stiffness.
We were gonna have a dance sequence.
All of a sudden, I feel like watching.
I forget how that even, what that even had to do with Sloth Max, but I know it had something to do with him.
So strange.
Here's you saw in the background there was a billboard with a bunch of posters on it. The environment artists had a good time coming up with those posters. There's the moon version of Smokey the Bear, and an advertisement for a new Moon Dude Ranch. Just really, really good opportunities to come up with some funny funny things. There's other stuff up there that you can't quite see in the game, like a note that was left for Buzz Aldrin, I think, by the rest of the Moon crew.
Hi, I'm Hugh Blit. Stop saying that! Huh?
It was one of our great goals for the season to turn everybody on Earth essentially into Max, which we finally got to do right here.
Sorry, I'm too nice. That said, die, bunny!
Wrong.
This episode, and actually this ending sequence, is probably the most effects we've used in any of the episodes combined. Again, to John Scro's
Dismay.
dismay. Yeah, but it keeps things going forward. It keeps us designing and improving new ways to do things, like Hugh's animated bacteria texture. We really need to focus on kind of developing the special effects tools in our studio, and this is a good way of kind of pushing that envelope.
His voice, too, in this scene was a good example of one where we had to kind of go back and forth a couple of times between the processing effect that was going to make him sound like a colony of something and make that sound good, and one where you were actually going to be able to understand what he said.
Yeah, sometimes the processing can make things inaudible.
Often, I'd say.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This last part, it was really important to Brendan that he has this big, crazy magic act at the end.
Yeah, so this is another one of the good examples of me saying, I just want it to be awesome, guys. Just make it great. And then
They
Dave
did.
Bogan and Daniel Herrera and the animators just go off and come up with so much stuff that's so creative and interesting to look at. I love it.
I got excited.
So I get to enjoy it just the same as you.
Kim Lyons put in these optical illusions in the background. There's one, you can kind of see one in the corner there, that if you look at them full on, they really make you kind of sick, actually.
Hey, you
But it's good.
separate this.
In my mind, one of my biggest worries was how do we finish off this season with such a finale that it's going to make it all worthwhile. And starting out, I had no idea this is what we're going to end up with, and I think we're all pretty happy with where it ended up. It's pretty freaky and funny.
My next number one, I shall
Right, well, for this particular episode, we struggled a lot with the fact that we did have this long-running goal to make the entire world be hypnotized as Max, and yet, in order to have a satisfying climax confrontation against the villain, it was kind of hard to allow both those things to happen, so we decided to actually move a lot of the, fallout of your actions in this episode into the closing credits. So this scene right here just sets up what we're going to see later in the closing credits of Max going around saving the world by punching everyone out.
This ending sequence is another one of Jake's fancy creations. He's an idea guy. And a lot of the times ideas don't get worked into the schedules, which is something we're going to continue to work on. But I really feel that it gave a real touch of class to the end of the episode and to the end of the season, for that matter. It's great to have another song from Jared in there. That's Jared singing too, is it not?
Yeah, Jared sings
Jared.
all the songs.
He's a good singer.
He was he was really happy
amazing.
when I sent him the lyrics for this one, because there's a whole sort of Gilbert and Sullivan section, and it turns out he's a really big Gilbert and Sullivan fan. That'll be coming up in a minute.
It almost, I really hate to say it, but it almost has that Randy Newman Pixar feel to it, this whole ending sequence. And I don't mean that it's a bad thing to be compared to Pixar, but obviously you want to do new things all the time and not really copy anybody.
But this was the end of the season. We were fresh out of ideas, so
Yeah.
pretty much just had
We were
to.
ready to all go home and
We've
take
got
a nap.
the Max poses going by there. That was a really
That's really
quick,
cute.
quick and dirty way to fill up a lot of 4 minutes, which this song equates to. And it works rather well. It bridges these little cutscene parts together quite nicely and gives you something interesting to look at.
I wasn't sure if people were going to get the fact that all the lines that the characters are saying in here are things that Max said over the course of the season. They might just come off as, oh, they're saying something weird, so they're like Max, but no, they're actually Max's lines all of them.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Well,
Some of them,
go.
I caught some of them. I didn't know the whole thing, though.
And some of them they do gestures like Max as well.
Another funny thing, which I'm sure was no accident, is the poses I created for Max as he floats by. I wasn't really directed on what kind of poses to make, so I just kind of went off the top of my head. And I think when Jake was editing this stuff together, he kind of tried to place them in the right spots that kind of went along with the lyrics of the song. So you can make up your own stories as to what that means, but it kind of fits.
So this is what's off the top of your head.
Yeah.
I'm getting scared.
I originally wanted to have him sucking his thumb, but I pulled away at the last minute.
Created with the Telltale tool is my favorite credit, just because it makes it seem like all of those people actually were created with the Telltale tool.
That's awesome. And the ending coming up here is just, I couldn't think of a better way to end off the season in the credits. The final visual that you see is, in my mind, kind of perfect for Sam and Max. And you probably won't see it for a little while because, like I said, this is 4 minutes long. It's amazing how many...
We have a lot of people to thank.
Yeah, it's amazing how many names you come up with when you're thanking people.
I haven't been reading, though. Have they been changing a lot? The people that we're specially thanking every time? I've never finished any of our games, so I have no idea.
It's pretty amazing. With all the people that we thanked, we managed to leave out a few people. And like I said, the schedule was so condensed at the end. Randy had steam coming out of his ears trying to pull all this stuff together at the very end. And we managed to forget about some of our testers, our play testers, and the people on our website. And a lot of others that were missed, and we're sorry. We're sorry.
We're
But we
very
appreciate
sorry.
it. We love you.
Yes.
We love you a lot.
Bye-bye.